Right, Vivian, let's see if we can get this puppy working. Hi, my name's PJ Stevens. Welcome to the fourth session in our lunchtime leadership lab. You're all very welcome. As we mentioned a couple of weeks ago when we started the process, I really hope this will become an environment, an ecosystem where people can connect, share and learn together. So really keen to get people involved in this because this idea of leading business change is so important. Businesses need leaders who can lead through change. Now, historically in the UK in particular, we're not very good at change. We think we are, but we're not. And the ability now, the capability now to lead through change is a competitive advantage. And all those other opportunities and perhaps challenges for leaders, we're going to address some of those over the next few weeks and look at how we can improve leadership and leaders within businesses for good. Certainly there's a lot of challenges in business at the moment. We need to, as the government wants us to do, improve performance and productivity. And therefore that's putting extra pressures on managers. And that's what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago. But you can see here from the 13-week process, we're now on number 4, which is hurdles. So last week we were speaking about strategy. This week it's about hurdles. What are the hurdles? What are the potential risks, hurdles, or pitfalls that might slow or derail your change process project, for example? And therefore, if we know what can slow them, if we know those hurdles, we can pay attention to them. So here we are, we're on hurdles number 4. Why do we need to identify and understand hurdles? Well, in many ways, it's simple. Look, if you're planning a journey, you want to know some of the things that can slow or derail this project. And often leaders themselves don't know, but the business does know. So I'll show you a process in a minute, but we go to the business and we ask staff, and if you also want to include customers and clients, what they think will slow or derail the process, because often they know a lot more than senior people in the business. So if this isn't a risk register, because otherwise we'll get Brexit and the pound-dollar exchange rate and flooding and so on. If we ask for that sort of thing, this is much more balanced and complete. If you like, these are the real issues that might slow or derail your strategy. And it's amazing how much knowledge, creativity, information exists in the business which remains untapped, and we can help you tap into that for good using our exact process, which I'll show you. So if we can understand what are the potential hurdles, then we can refocus our attention and resources to where it matters, because often we spend time and money on doing things that don't really matter, or we spend too much time and money on them when it really, the squeaky wheel, for example. Or maybe we spend as leaders a lot of time doing things we like to do, or things that we were required to do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago that aren't necessary now. They're not perhaps unnecessary, but we don't need to spend as much time on them. They're not that important. Think about going into COVID. There was a lot of pressure to send people home safely for individual well-being. Now, we know we're not in COVID. You're not under that pressure. We don't have those concerns, and it's starting to swing now towards the need to improve teams and teamwork, because many businesses have not attended to that for the last few years, and that's difficult, to do given the situation. So, but what's important here is not guessing what you need to pay attention to. It's having the information to or the data to inform better quality conversations, so you know what to do and why precisely. Because as the old term says, what gets measured gets done. So if we can do that, we can reduce some of those hits and some of those hurdles, and we can move more efficiently and effectively towards value. This saves time and money, and ultimately makes you more money. And this is important at the moment. Who doesn't want more money in the bank account? So let's have a quick look. So if you remember from last week, I started to talk about our exact process, exact EXACT. You can see it's 5 steps that we guarantee will help you move faster to value. So 2 weeks ago, we talked about vision, really. So Where are you trying to get to? What's the view of the future? Why will you be relevant in a few years' time? Why will you matter? How will you be doing business? What business will you be doing? What will the marketplace look like? What will clients want from you? How will that help you? How will you support their needs? And then last week we looked at strategy. So, hey, how are you going to get there? If we know where we need to get to and we know where we are now, what's the plan or strategy to get us there? And how big are those steps? How difficult is that change? How easy is it? How important is it? And we ask those questions. So today, step 3, we're looking at attention. So where is our attention now? And where does our attention need to be in order to greatly improve the likelihood of success? Because as we know, change is difficult, expensive, risky, it's emotional. And therefore, if we can manage some of those things, tap into the emotions, but manage some of the challenges, we can greatly increase or tip the balance of success in your favor. So this is some work we did with a client last year. We interviewed a whole bunch of people in the business, from cleaner to board member, from marketing to legal, and so on. Okay. And what we unearthed were 50. In essence, there were about 300 or 400 ideas from staff, but what we came up with was 52 attention points. 52 attention points. And if you look at the chart here, if you look at the solid orange line going top left to bottom right, that is indicating the significance of the risk. The numbers are the risks themselves. I'll show you what some of those are in a minute, but the numbers are the risks or the hurdles themselves. And the silver line is the degree to which the business thinks, or the staff think the business is prepared to deal with the challenge. Okay. So if you look at risk number 45, when sorted, it is the highest risk. Scoring 100, it's the highest risk. But you'll also notice that it's mitigated or understood almost 90. Yeah, so actually there's quite a small gap. The difference between 100 and 90 is quite a small gap. So this is important, it's relevant, may have high impact, but actually we've pretty much got it covered. Okay, you can see it's balanced. If you then look at on the left, risk number 23 or hurdle number 23, it's got a score of almost 100. It's certainly well over 90. It's almost 100. And yet, if you look at the silver line, the business says, or people in the business say, look, we're only prepared, or management are only prepared to deal with this single figures. That looks like a score of about an 8 or a 9 to me. The gap is enormous. There's probably a gap there of 90. That's a huge gap. We need to close that gap. That is a real risk, and we're not in a position to manage it. Okay. Number 44, there's a smaller gap. Go to 26. So 26, probably in terms of insignificance, which is a mix of importance and likelihood, is probably mid 80s. I can't see, but probably mid 80s. And yet 0 in terms of preparedness. We're prepared to deal with this, 0, the least amount. Okay. Look at some of those others, 32, 29, 47. They're well below that orange line. Well, so all these things need attention. 22, look at 10, very, very low in terms of prepared, and relatively significant risk. If you look at something like 46, 42, then they're almost balanced. They're almost in a line. 42, 46, they're not far off the orange line. Very, very small gaps. They're quite important, but not far off. Now, look on the right-hand side, and this is very typical. Look on the right-hand side. You've got a lot of risks or hurdles on the right-hand side that are scoring way above the orange line. Remember, the orange line is significance, importance plus likelihood. Look at number 15, top right, number 15. In terms of its significance, it's single figures, yes? 4, 5, 6, I can't tell. And yet it is the most mitigated or understood or prepared for risk. And we love it. We're doing lots of it, pay lots and lots of attention. My point is, it doesn't need 0 attention, but it doesn't need that enormous amount of resource being used. Look at 16, 21, 7, way, way, way above the orange line. 2, look at number 2, probably 40, 41. These risks, top right, are receiving far more attention than are necessary. These risks, like number 15, they're not going to bring the company to its knees or the project to its knees looking at this. Whereas 26, on the other hand, 10, could very well trip up this process. Okay. So what we're saying is do less of the stuff on the right and take that resource and refocus to the stuff on the left. Yeah. Do what needs doing. Pay what needs, pay attention. Refocus resources to where it needs to be focused. So let me just tell you what a couple of these things were. These are the top sort of dozen or so hurdles. If you look on the left-hand side, top dozen or so hurdles. The top one with 100%, 100 scoring 100 for significance, and the prep was 88. Look, that was local government priorities counted to the interest to our client. A relatively small gap, pretty much covered. Yeah, and then you've got risk 23, which I mentioned, scoring 97 for significance and 7 for preparedness. So you've got a difference of 90. That's a huge gap that needs attention to. And then if you come down a couple, number 44, there's a small gap. Look at number 26, number 4 down, number 26. So in terms of significance, 89, prep 0. Now look across the right-hand side, and that the question was around company culture versus business culture. So the people we identify, the people we interviewed identified this and said, look, this is, when they were asked to fill in some surveys, this is the one that not only they identified it, but they said it was significant and least prepared. So have a look on the right hand side, just look at some of the titles: silo teams and team culture, insufficient training, management reactionary in nature. Look at that, 83 for significance, 7 for preparedness. In other words, management being reactionary in nature is quite a significant challenge to this project being delivered. Look at the one below, blame or blame avoidance. So you can see a lot of these things are people related, culture related, and there's a big chunk of leadership in here. Now, what we did was we looked at the 52 things, and more or less, they fell into 6 groups is what we noticed, 6 groups. And you can see those groups on the right-hand side. This is really just to give a quick visual guide. But if you look on the right-hand side, there's the 6 things: external matters, tech and procedures, relationships, communication, leadership, and culture. Now, anything above the line is receiving more attention. It's out of kilter, it's out of balance, it's receiving lots of attention, perhaps more attention than it needs. The green line is balanced. That's balance between significance and preparedness. In other words, if it's on the line, it would have a nice balance of preparedness for the level of hurdle. Now, look at culture. Culture and external are almost equal and opposite, aren't they? So culture is high on significance and yet low on preparedness. In other words, cultural things are causing you a problem, okay, or could potentially slow this project down significantly. Look at external. So, for example, external stakeholders, government departments, for example, they get lots of attention. Yeah. When those guys call for a meeting, they get one immediately. You could argue when staff get one, they don't. They want a meeting, they don't get one. Can you see the difference? So maybe pay a little bit attention, a little bit bit less attention to some of those things. You need to refocus on others. Tech and procedure, for example, pretty good at that. You can see getting lots of attention, but culture, leadership stuff, communication, relationships need to be invested in. And it's often, it's these relationships, it's people who drive a business forward, slow it down, in some cases put it in reverse. And it's relationships that really matter. It's the soft stuff, it's the trust, it's the connection. And we'll in a few weeks' time be talking about things like psychological safety and collaboration and so on. So there you go. You can pinpoint the specifics to pay attention to. These are the hurdles you need to pay attention to. And therefore, by doing so, you greatly increase the likelihood of delivering this project on time, in budget, and so on. Yeah. So just as a quick reminder, envision the future, extract information. Where are you now? Where are you trying to get to? And therefore, what's that strategy? And we're on this attention point. You need to know what to pay attention to, because then in step 4, cognition, you can look at, well, what training and development do I need? How can I better connect people and knowledge in the business, people and ideas? And actually, I think that's one of my main jobs, actually, is really connecting people, is trying to tap into that knowledge and creativity and innovation that already exists in your business, but you can't access. Yeah, we need to know how to do that. And then finally, what projects we're going to invest in to transform the business. So I hope that's a little, perhaps that's some useful insight around hurdles for you. Really, it's around helping you move to value faster. If you can identify what's in the way, then you can do something about it. And by the way, often there's some great opportunities in that too. And secondly, is that staff often know how to mitigate those hurdles, but have never been asked. So quite often you'll get immediate value from doing this because you'll tap into um, knowledge, creativity, potential that exists in staff, which will help anyway, and they'll mitigate things they knew about which you didn't know about, and they also have some of the solutions to it. Okay. So listen, this has been me, PJ Stevens, talking about hurdles and how to identify, understand, and therefore mitigate or get some value from those hurdles and therefore move much faster to value. If you want to connect with me, find me on Calendly. My email is pj@pjstevens.co.uk, as is my website. And I look forward to seeing you over the next few weeks. We're meeting every Wednesday at midday for about 40 minutes. And if you don't catch them live, then you can just, if you want to, you can watch the recording. So what we're trying to do though is create an environment, an atmosphere, a group of people, a movement, if you like, where we can connect, learn, and share from and with each other in order to build better businesses for good. This has been me, PJ Stevens. Thanks very much for listening. Cheers. Bye.